Outside of the beauty, backstory, and bugs, the choices we make are as important as clean water to survive the wasteland. It's also expected that titles such as this one contain suitable branching paths, and alternate endings for the side stories and main quests respectively. Because without these options, the game becomes less of an RPG and more of a story-driven narrative, which is fine, but might not be what some players sign up for. During my playthrough, there were plenty of times where I felt like I was actually making a difference, for better or worse, as a result of my decisions, and other times where I didn't feel like anything was changing at all. It helped me to gain perspective on the genre, and I really started to understand what works and what doesn't, which I wanted to radiate to you guys. So today, we're surviving Fallout 3. Major spoilers. Fallout 3 is laden with choices. Choices are what distinguish the game from being a linear experience, often referred to as open-world sandboxes. The choice to stick to the main quest or deviate. The choice of what weapon to use. With the choices of how to spec your characters, leading to the choice of how you approach encounters. On top of this are moral choices that dictate the kind of person you are.
Would you please kill me?
I wasn't very nice.
You're a big asshole.
Here and there were dialogue choices and potential actions we can take based on our morality, which offer replayability. The downstream effects of choices are critical to emphasizing effects. If there's no consequence of a player-driven choice, why even include a choice at all? Maybe it's possible that omitting player options in favor of telling a specific story could make for an enjoyable and unique experience given the lore and atmosphere within the Fallout series. Perhaps a solid narrative can be crafted that emphasizes player action and participation rather than leading the player on to believing a decision they made changed the course of fate. Something similar to the Metro series, but with RPG mechanics. Because the decisions we make and how they affect our games are at the core of the RPG experience. How we respond to a world that's shaped as a consequence of our actions is a satisfying level of immersion rarely achieved by many other genres. Fallout is no exception. So that's why I hold it to a high standard. I simultaneously love the freedom to play as I do, make the worst decisions possible, and see what happens. But I'm also left unsatisfied as to how little effect most of our actions truly have. No matter what I chose, I felt like I couldn't get away from what the game wanted me to do rather than what I wanted to do.
Next time you want to take them on yourself and buy yourself an early retirement, go right ahead.
To understand what I mean, it's important to distinguish between the choices that matter and have impact versus the choices that simply add flavor, let us live out our characters. So what is a choice that matters?
You're damn right she's a bitch. Ruined my whole goddamn life.
These are choices that alter gameplay. Hard choices, if you will. Things like affect the mechanics of your character, changes to the downstream results of storylines, or otherwise affects the way the game functions from the point of decision onward. Everything else I consider flavored, soft choices.
Humans and their toys are done for.
Choices are the backbone to RPGs, and many would argue that they're the main reason to play Bethesda titles.
What? No!
Bruh. From the start, we're given access to some degree of meaningful choices spread throughout the Vault tutorial section. Our stat distributions will likely dictate how we play the game, but we also get a glimpse of a few interactions which show us that sometimes our choices don't matter. We pass by the tunnel snakes harassing Amada. We can either shoo them off or join in on the fun.
Amada's so fat, she broke her leg and gravy poured out.
Hey, lard ass.
No matter our decision, she still wakes us up and urges us to flee. When our father leaves the vault for some unknown reason, drawing ire, we must flee. The vault overseer and police attempt to kill on sight, rather than talk it out or arrange a peaceful departure.
I've dealt with your kind before, you little snot-nosed punk.
Why are you running?
Soon after exiting the vault, we happen upon the town of Megaton, a city of idiots that decide to couch their homes comfortably around a nuclear bomb. Upon looking for information about Dad, we bump into Burke, a trustworthy businessman with an employment offer and housing.
It will be detonated by you.
Clearly the right choice. In our minds, we entertain the idea of what could be. Surely they won't let us wipe out an entire town off the map, right? Well, turns out we can. In fact, this is a perfect example of an impactful choice that has repercussions through the rest of our playthrough, mostly. I say mostly because even though we can forever alter this entire city, the lives of those within or associated with, and the potential quests and housing are largely supplemented elsewhere. For example, most people die, so we can't get the quests back if we haven't completed them already, except for Moira, who travels to the Undercity where we can receive her quests, leading to various quest rewards like schematics unique to her.
My head's still ringing from that explosion. What happened?
We lose access to vendors, but there's plenty in Tenpenny Tower and the caravans are still roaming. We lose potential housing, but we're given a much nicer room anyways. We're rewarded with negative karma, but we can make amends throughout the rest of the playthrough if we so choose. Outside of certain Megaton quests, we only really lose a strength bobblehead if we didn't collect it before detonating the nuke. So essentially nothing of value is lost. This decision impacts how we interact with the location, recognized by the rest of the world, and offers benefits or hindrances due to our decision. But upon reviewing the replacement options, we realize that this impactful decision is undermined by the alternative options listed earlier, making the decision to destroy Megaton feel more like a flavor choice rather than one that matters.
What you did, it was a great thing.
Don't get me wrong, I love the option to. It's just diminished from the potential to be something more. And this is a recurring theme with Fallout 3. The idea of offering options, attaching big ideas with potentially big consequences, but not delivering on them. I want them to gate content behind our decisions. And most of the bones are already here. Like this mother whose son lived there, and as I gloated to her, the entire town turned on me.
You what? You son of a bitch!
Hey.
We can still have Moira survive, but let's also have her lose access to some schematics, lost to the shop that we destroyed.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Let us borrow ourselves from special goods and vendors only found in Megaton. Let us have special Megaton enemies attack us on the road. Prevent business with other vendors who discover our deeds through word of mouth via caravans, so on and so forth. As it stands, we go through the rest of our travels with loads of soft choices. A few more examples include the main story.
Son, you've saved me.
We meet up with the dad and we eventually get the pier fire going again. Dad hears about what we did to Megaton.
Megaton destroyed? You? I raised you to be better than that.
The result is inconsequential, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a slight tug of shame when I disappointed him. Luckily, the Enclave arrives and spares us further shame. The Enclave is kind of opposite to the Brotherhood of Steel, whom we turn to for help and protection. They steer us to Vault 87 to get our hands on a Gek in order to proceed with the water purification efforts. Except it's blocked by a bunch of kids.
Hell no! No mungos allowed!
We can't kill them because Bethesda has no spine, so we agree to an exchange instead. Another example of limited options. Their friend is captured by the slavers at Paradise Island, and it's here I actually meet some people that has some real respect for my conquests.
I've heard a few things about you.
Finally, some recognition.
Thanks for getting us out of there, Mungo.
Little Lamplight grants access to Vault 87 for the Gek. It's infested with super mutants, and we also learn that this is where they were created. Scientists were trying to rapidly evolve humans into superior beings that can withstand the wasteland. But things got out of control, and they eventually escape, and you know the rest. This guy still managed to maintain his humanity, but he's still pretty much a super mutant, so...
I prefer the term metahuman.
And I love the option to activate the Gek. It just kills you and reloads a previous checkpoint, so it's pointless to do. But I like that this is added in here anyways. It's a nice touch, even if short on meaning. How cool would an ending cutscene be based on your actions thus far? Alas, more flavor. On the way out, we're captured by the Enclave leader AI, President Eden. The dialogue options and our capabilities in speech and science can influence how we deal with him. But ultimately, we cannot leave without taking the Forced Evolution Virus, FEV, a formula that alters how the Gek functions to kill anything that has mutation.
The virus contained in that vial will cause the eradication of all mutations.
This includes super mutants, ghouls, most wastelanders, and even ourselves, likely. Especially if we've taken a few mutations as quest rewards. We're doing it. Sorry, Charon. What? Put a pin in this, because it's a big choice we're coming back to. We make our way outside of the Enclave and back to the Brotherhood Citadel. They realize their limited time and power up pride. It wreaks havoc on the Enclave as we make our way to the pier fire. We break in and kill Major Autumn.
You're in over your head, I'm afraid.
Help me.
And when Lion's back is turned, I slip in some sweet FEV. But it turns out someone needs to make a heroic sacrifice to activate the purifier. Sorry, I don't know the code.
What?
Just kidding. I do, but I'm not going in there.
Give me the damn code! Your sense of humor sucks.
Afterwards, the purifier is activated. The wasteland is saved. Supposedly, all mutant creatures have been destroyed. Enclave is still at large. Brotherhood of Steel keeps on. Yada yada yada. I actually wanted to side with the Enclave, and maybe enlist, but no such option exists. We're forced to side with the Brotherhood of Steel.
If you're successful, there's a place for you in the Enclave.
After the credits roll and I re-enter the wasteland through DLC, more on this on my second channel, there's some dialogue options about how the Brotherhood of Steel is supplying clean water to the wasteland. But it wasn't satisfying enough for me. Nothing's changed. So I blew them up too. Going back to the AI Enclave leader, we can kill Eden a variety of ways based on our stats and missions we've completed. Or we can leave him be. We cannot leave without taking the FEV. So we have multiple options that equal dead AI, with or without a dead base, and all options lead to FEV. If we pick an option that destroys the AI and the base, it doesn't matter, because if we didn't self-destruct the base, Prime does it anyway in the DLC. The FEV itself has no effect. They claim it's something that's slowly dispersed and will eventually work its magic and kill off anything with mutations, eventually clearing the entirety of the capital wasteland. But the most we see are patients in hospital beds complaining about it, which is great, but more flavor. We still fight super mutants, still see functional ghouls and other critters. Perhaps they could have shown that anything within a few miles of Ground Zero, the purifier, is dead. Like scattered corpses and settlements among the nearest streams. Perhaps cut off some more vendors or something that were local. I don't know, just show me things that are different. You see where I'm going with this? The choices that seemingly matter and have huge potential impacts are an illusion.
Selfishness, greed, cruelty. These were the values that guided a lost soul through countless trials and triumphs.
These soft options aren't unique to the main quests. They're also intertwined with the gameplay. We have a choice of a number of companions, though they hardly have any world-related influence. I traveled with Charon. I earned his contract from a shady store owner in the Undercity, and was afraid to give it up after seeing what he did to his previous owner. But having him help me in the wasteland and carrying a ton of extra inventory really increased the length of expeditions. The type of weapons we give him can switch up our combat tactics, and the wasteland starts to feel a bit more manageable. But to test the response of the world, I thought it'd be cool to go to the tower and see if all my neighbors, avid ghoul haters, even allowed him through the gate. I was expecting him to be forced to wait outside while I took care of business and returned. But as you'd expect,
those ghouls won't be bothering us anymore.
Thanks for handling those ghouls.
You got rid of those vile creatures.
Good job removing our little pest problem.
Surprise, motherfucker.
The hacking and picking stats fall into soft options as well, because any high-value loot or quest objectives have both options nearby anyways. So if you fail to pick attempts, you can just hack it, and vice versa. They're ensuring you cannot fail, regardless of character specs. For the most part, there aren't really any factions to join or benefits to helping different clusters of people. Some more interesting ones that I was hoping to befriend were the stuck-in-the-past cannibals.
Did you see anything unexpected there?
Dave's Republic trying to carve out some land for themselves.
You will address me as Mr. President, or I will have you executed.
And maybe even the different slaver groups. We could do a few captures for them, but mainly for caps, and that didn't amount to much. Also, some of the slaves they requested live next door to me, and another in the middle of a bustling trade hub that is Rivet City, that I'd rather not lose access to, so yeah.
Can I take it off now?
For the most part, Fallout 3 is a good experience, but not a great one. It was better at giving the illusion of impactful choices that matter, rather than executing said choices. It was good at tricking us into thinking we're changing the world, but not reflecting those changes back to the player. And I know my expectations might be a bit high, but I just couldn't help but feel like I was missing something, despite much of the framework that I asked for already existing inside the game. They just need the courage to limit the player's access in favor of providing a truly unique experience each playthrough. So while I finish up the DLCs for the first time ever, I'm still confident in saying that overall, the experience of playing Fallout 3 10 years later is still fun. The gunplay is a bit dated, but serviceable. VOTS is a nice crutch if you're careless. The atmosphere and optional stories off the beaten path are engrossing. And the variety of things to do and see are plentiful and interesting, even if a bit shallow. Fallout 3 has a great set of bones, and I commend it for everything it attempts. There's much more that it succeeds at that I didn't cover here, and perhaps there's something to be said about even being able to achieve the illusion that it does. I'm compelled to finish up the DLC, and will eventually get to New Vegas, often heralded as one of the greatest Fallout experiences of all time. I've actually never played it before, and I'm super curious how a different studio uses the license. But it's worth acknowledging that that interest comes from the foundations of the Capital Wasteland.